Sergio Perez and Cadillac are set to collaborate from 2026 onwards. And after tons of criticism about his performance in Red Bull, the Mexican has somehow navigated his way back to the sport. As all sources suggest, Cadillac is going with a bold lineup of Bottas and Perez, experienced and trustworthy. But how can Perez prove to Red Bull that they've made a mistake of letting him go? And more importantly, what could he prove to the Austrian team as a new driver of Cadillac? The rumours about Perez's future are very likely coming to an end. According to various sources, the American squad chose its lineup for 2026. With Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez set to debut for the team led by Mario Andretti, it's a move that makes a lot of sense, but it also shows how much trust they have in the Mexican driver. After his poor stint with Red Bull, not many believe that Sergio has what it takes to return to form, but now that doesn't really seem to be the case. Mario Andretti had some strong words about Perez a long time ago, even when more than 10 drivers were considered for the seat, and said loud and clear, "We've seen through Lawson and Tsunoda's performance in Red Bull that maybe the driver is not the problem." Therefore, Perez's financial backup has withdrawn with him from the Austrian team, and I do believe that Cadillac would be thrilled to have that financial support apart from Sergio's experience. Let's face it, Perez is an experienced driver and won 6 races in his career. Of course, the most memorable one was in 2020 when he won in Sakya after being dead last at one point, which is what guaranteed him the spot in Red Bull. But in the Austrian team, he had shown some great skills before the car started to deteriorate from him. It's partly his fault for not being able to adapt to the machinery, but now that 2 other drivers much younger than him had the same problem, you could argue that Red Bull needs to change their approach as well. Be that as it may, the message is clear. Perez's place is still in Formula One, and Cadillac is ready to use all of his available qualities. And despite his massive experience in the sport, I do believe that the American team would be very happy to have the financial backup as well. Numbers have shown that around 30 million would follow Perez wherever he goes, primarily thanks to Carlos Slim, the Mexican billionaire who stands behind Sergio's career. Companies that are owned by him, Telmex and Tel, for example, will probably appear as sponsors of Cadillac. And from that point onward, there could be an opening for a bigger financial collaboration. But for a team like Cadillac, who are just entering the sport as customers of Ferrari, this money would be more than a blessing. Let's not forget that they aim to introduce their own power unit from 2029 onwards. So the money from Perez would probably go into that development. It's highly unlikely that in the next 3 years Cadillac would be a contender up top, unless the engines of Ferrari prove to be massively dominant compared to the rest of the grid. But even then, as a customer team, your expectations are lower. So, if Bottas and Perez can be in the midfield, it would still be a massive start to their campaign, and that would be a bombshell on Red Bull. Whether we like it or not, the Austrian team believe that the problem was Perez when Max won the championship last year while the Mexican driver finished 8th. They seem to have forgotten that Perez is the only vice-champion of Red Bull when his teammate won the championship. Something that happened in 2023 and something that even Mark Webber, the ultimate number 2 driver, failed to achieve in Red Bull's golden era. Obviously, Red Bull's projected struggles in 2026 could turn them into a midfield team, because the general belief is that along with Audi, they will have the biggest engine deficit compared to the rest of the grid. Considering the fact that the new regulations are going to be all about the engine and the battery power, if you face a deficit in that area, I guess you are going to have a massive challenge to be competitive. And for Cadillac, that might not be so big of an issue because Ferrari has a proven record of building competitive and reliable engines. So this could be the first era in which the Maranello base squad would have an upper hand over the rest of the grid. And what that would bring us is strong customer teams like Cadillac. Perez hinted at his own return to Formula One through Instagram, saying that the summer has been very long and implying that some changes would appear on the horizon sooner rather than later. Of course, we are yet to hear the final confirmation from both Perez and Cadillac. Again, it's going to be a roller coaster of emotions when Perez returns to the sport, because when we saw how poorly Lawson and Tsunoda performed, we kind of felt that we owed Sergio an apology. He made everything he could to adapt to the car. And while it wasn't specifically built towards Max, the fact that Verstappen adapted much better to it suggested that way. Needless to say, Perez faced tons of critics, and his self-confidence has only plummeted race after race, hitting rock bottom as he finished 8th last year in the Drivers' Championship. Now, he will have all the motivation he needs in order to show the phone world that he's still got it in himself. But is he a long-term solution for Cadillac's project? That's a very interesting question that needs to be discussed. The lineup makes a lot of sense because we have ultimate wingman from Mercedes and Red Bull respectively being placed in the same team. None of them was leader at any given time. Although Bottas's record is vastly better than the one of Perez, both in qualifying and in race results, now that they would have to take initiative. How good are they going to be in that matter? And let's not forget, they could take the philosophy of HR when the American team had Hülkenberg and Magnus on board. The ultimate goal is the team and understanding of the car, not the individual point scoring. But that's not as easy when you have drivers who won races and who are used to finishing on the podium and in the top 5 much more frequently than the harsh drivers were. And if these two are not a long-term solution, and I'm talking like 5 years from now, then it would be practically an internal war in Cadillac. Both will fight to keep their seat alive, as one of them is going to be replaced by a youngster. If that would be Perez, then I guess the battle lost against Bottas would be the final nail in his phone career. He does have a lot on his shoulders to prove, and money can only get you so far in this sport. The rest is up to you.